So I understand you are interested in genealogy, how to trace your African American ancestors, right?
Right.
So have any of you already started on your genealogy track?
Nope.
No?
My sister does.
Oh, you
But
have?
but you know I work here as well.
Okay.
So.
So we have quite a few newbies in. Okay. So really, sometimes we've already started on our genealogy track. We just haven't labeled it that.
Okay.
Because I'm always asked, where's the best place to start? The best place to start is at home.
Yeah.
When you sort of get out the record that you have and put them together, you realize, I got the first 4 pages covered right here. Now I just need to verify it. Because we know that a lot of times we take information from obituaries and sometimes church records, and sometimes the church records are not primary source records. They've been transcribed and corrected. You know how we have to correct the record? And then we devalue the whole record. Because we knew better than the person who wrote the information down. Yeah. It happens a lot. Or we look at an obituary, and the obituary was not an official record anyway. It's just a family record. And it's subject to whoever wrote the obituary and how informed they were. I've seen quite a few that I was like, they should have called me first. I don't even know the family, but even I knew better than this right here. So I would say people start with what you know. You're gonna start with your ancestors that you know. In my case, I would have started with my mother. Then you work your way down. So I know some people say, well, you know, I know that my granddad was born in 1908. But this is 2026. What happened in between 1908 and 2026? There's a whole cornucopia of records that you skipped over because you heard that the grandfather was born in 1906. It wasn't a birth record because Mississippi didn't keep birth records then, right? So you going from family lore, which is always good, because there's always something there that's going to keep them in the back of your mind, and you've heard the ancestors say it all the time, and you're like, oh Lord, here Grandma is, she will tell us the same story over and over again. We should have listened, because when grandmother went to stay with the ancestors, we didn't have her to ask those questions again, and there was something, little tidbit in there that would have saved you had you written it down.
Yes, that's right.
You know.
Correct.
Because everything she said may have been, most of it may have been a little colorized, you know. But there was some truth in there. And had we written it down or recorded it, we could have gone back and said, so this is what she meant. So what I say, you start at home. You start with your birth records, our Bible records, your obituaries, your cemetery records. That's a whole new animal by itself for cemetery records. You're going to start with any death records you have. And of course, you know, death records and obituaries are two different organisms, right? Because one's an official record, and a death record is an official record, and an obituary is a family record. Right. It's just like a Bible record. It all depends on when it was written in the Bible. So I know, have you seen Bibles and the handwriting is the same? That should tell you this is written, it's been taken out of the old Bible and transcribed to a new Bible. And sometimes when I look at this, I'm like, you know what? I don't think that's right. I think she was born this date, and I put it over here. And I done changed the whole record. So when it's all in the same handwriting, be aware that it really is the truth of the record. Because in essence, if we had a family Bible, they would have 2 or 3 handwritings in it, wouldn't it? It may be some in pencil, some in pen, but all the time the handwriting's not gonna be the same. Because in using one person will keep the Bible record, but sometimes someone else will write it in for them. So if everything's in the same hand, it looks like it's newer ink or pencil, then you should question that record. Not that's not true, but verify. That's the one thing you do about genealogy. It's whatever record you're given, verify it. No matter how much you trust that person, you need to verify it.
Okay.
And that's when I was working my master's, my professor used to say, what's this record, what's this you got right here? And he has his red ink pen. I hate that red ink pen. Because he would draw lines through, it's like when I get the paper back, it would be bleeding. He's like, I didn't see the source. You didn't cite the source. So you draw a line through it. But you still read it. He said, you see them red lines? That means you didn't cite the source. The same thing with genealogy. You need to cite the source.
Okay.
Backtrack and see if that record is really true. And you got to also have the audacity to ask questions. Sometimes that's the hardest part. Because sometimes family members don't want you to ask those questions. Now we know sometimes we're doing genealogy, you stepping on people's toes.
Yes, true.
And when you start stepping on people's toes, just back up. As I tell my children all the time, get off my blue suede shoes. Back up. And because generally, if one person knows, another person knows too.
Yes.
Because secrets are really not secrets.
No.
It may be a few people know it, but someone tell you don't tell anybody. And what you gonna
Somebody
do?
knows.
Well, you ain't
Well,
you
they
ain't
just
gonna
told
tell
you,
them
so they
nobody. You
already
don't really know them, right?
Yeah.
So the secret is out, right?
Yeah.
That's no such thing as a secret. So when they start telling you that it's not your business, you're just trying to start stuff. I hear that all the time. You're just trying to start stuff. It's like, I'm just doing genealogy. That's what I want to know. I'm not gonna tell you. Then you find out someone else and ask them. Then that person find out that you now know that secret. They come back, oh, I didn't know that's what you were doing. Well, let me tell you the whole truth. See, now you got two versions, and you write down both of them.
Yes.
Because there's some truth in both of them, right? Because there's always a tidbit of truth in what's being said. So you have to be strong enough to ask a question, and willing to accept answers that don't agree with what you always thought.
Oh, wow.
Because you heard this over and over again. That doesn't necessarily mean it's true. You've seen it in writing. That does not necessarily make it true. Right. Now I've seen some family papers, and I just read them like, You know how you be saying something in your head? Now I know for a fact that ain't right. But I'm not gonna say it to them. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go and verify it. Then when I verify, I'm gonna put it in my record. But I'm gonna put a pin by it. So that when someone said, where did you get this from? Like, I researched myself, but I had another record that said this right here. So that way they'll say, oh yeah, I heard that too. I said, but this is what the official records say. And we know sometimes, all the time, official records may not be true as well. It's not only as true as the person who wrote it down or gave the information.
Yes.
Right. So once you gotten all those records from home, you roll in your notebook, you find your line to work on. Don't try to work on everybody's line at one time. You be as crazy as the best bud. Get you a line. Get your oak tree. Let me change that. Get you a pine tree first, cause you have a straight root, right?
Right.
Get you a pine tree, and then move it on over to the oak tree, cause the oak tree has more branches, right? So start with your pine tree, because you want just the facts, the major information. Then move it over to the big branches, so you have all these lines to put all that information on. So start with the straight root first, and then branch out. Okay? Make sure those roots are deep. So once you start doing that, you're going to start looking at the actual records themselves. I usually start with the census records, the federal census records. The last census record released to the state or to anyone, because it's a federal record, is the 1950 federal census. The census are taken every 10 years, and they're released 72 years from the year they're taken. So that's why when someone says, just answer the census questions truthfully, because by the time it's opened, you may not be here, or it may be the point where you're at the age where you just don't care. The truth is going to be the truth. So answer that census question. So then you're going to, since it's not every 10 years, you want to do it every 10 years. You don't want to jump, because every census report asks different questions. So if you jump over, say, oh, I found them in 1950, I'm going to jump now to 1930. You miss those years in between and the questions that were asked in between. So when you go back to look for it, you're like, I can't find this. It was on that 1940 census report that you skipped over. They said, was he a veteran? Was he a twin? What street did he live on? Because some census records actually will tell the street they live on.
Yes.
Don't they? And they move from county to county. If you live on the county land, for years and years, I thought that we were living in Calhoun County. Went up to the church up there, Midway Missionary Baptist Church in Vardaman. I thought the cemetery, because the cemetery right down the road, I thought it was in Vardaman. It's on County Line Road. This cemetery is in Chickasaw County. That's why I couldn't find it on the map. It's on the same land. But somehow, it cut. And I'm at the archives looking for that Midway Cemetery. I know I've been there. Then I happened to look one day, and I'm like, wait a minute. My sister stayed on County Line Road. And I've been up down that church so much I can go to it by myself. Out on that red dirt road. Don't go when it's muddy. You end up in the ditch. Don't go when it's muddy. Or you will leave your car there and you'll be walking home in the mud. Okay, just a little warning. I seen it happen. It's a different county. So if you live near the county land and you can't find your record, you need to look in the next county. So you need to know when your county was formed. So you can't say, oh, I was born in Chickasaw County. And I said, no. I'm sorry, my county is Calhoun County. I don't know my counties for real, because they just moved back and forth. I'm claiming Chickasaw, Calhoun, because that's where I was born, in Vardaman. You know, the big sweet day capital of the world.
Yes.
That's our only claim to fame right there. We got the best sweet potatoes. That's our claim right there.
Well, they are good.
So Calhoun County was formed in 1852. Chickasaw County formed in 1836. So if I can't find the record in Calhoun County, I need to look in the older county, right?
That's right.
So for years, I knew that the Calhoun County Courthouse burned down in 1922. Rumor has it, that there was a court case going on. And one of the judges from Calhoun County told me this himself. It's not this guy from Vardaman. He said, my dad was a judge, and he was a judge as well. So he followed his dad's footsteps. He said, there was a big court case going on, a murder case. And the defendant said, before I go to jail, the courthouse will burn. What happened to the courthouse? It burned down.
Yeah.
Get what happened to him?
He didn't go to jail.
He didn't go to jail.
Yeah.
Because all the records burned in the courthouse. So I can't say that he did it.
Right.
It's just the circumstances around it. Since he said, before I go to jail, the courthouse will burn.
Okay.
And it just so happened, 2 weeks later, the courthouse burned down.
Yeah.
I don't have no evidence, but
Yeah.
you know, 1 + 1 is 2 every day, right? So I'm looking at my records in Calhoun County, and I'm like, oh, the burning 22, I can't find my grandparents' records. I'm just looking. Now I always tell people, make your circle. If you can't find your records in your courthouse, go to the next closest courthouse. And you know how you tell people something all the time, you don't follow your own advice. So one day I was driving in Vardaman on 8th, went straight to Houston, and something said, there's a courthouse. I have not been to Houston courthouse in Chickasaw County. that is 10 miles from Baltimore. So I pulled up at the courthouse. The family, they still waiting for me. They doing something. They waiting. I'm over at the courthouse because I had got distracted. I went to the courthouse and I found nearly every record I was looking for. All those marriage records. They end up in Chickasaw County, in Houston. And Chickasaw County, one of the county had 2 courthouses, one in Houston and one in Oklahoma. But we live closer than one in Houston. Because half the time we lived in Baltimore, other time we lived in Houston. Then we lived in Clay County. Then we lived in Webster County. Then we lived in October. We just kind of moved. My parents were sharecroppers. So they went where jobs were.
Yes.
And if you know sharecropping, that's a contract. And most times that contract was faulty, wasn't it? So a lot of times people had to move in the middle of the night to get away from that contract, and they moved somewhere else. Even though they were landowners, they didn't have the money to farm their own land, so they had to sign a sharecropping contract with someone else to make money, just to pay the taxes on this land that they didn't have the money to farm. Right. So we know life is just a big history lesson, just like genealogy is.
Yes.
So I'm over court in Chickasaw County Courthouse over in Houston, and I was telling my mom, she said, Joyce Ann, you gonna find out I'm related to John Ross. That's my daddy's name. They kind of like distant cousins. Mom said, Joyce Ann, I told you to leave that alone. Well, you the one told me that he was from Clay County. I didn't know that his family and all, they represent in Chickasaw County, over in Houston. See, that's what happens when you go digging up stuff.
Yes.
That's okay. It does not change who I am.
Right.
Does not change who they are, right?
That's right.
It's just another record being put on that tree.
Yes.
So if you don't find in the courthouse that you used to, go to the next courthouse, or find your parent county. Say Union County. Union County was formed in 1870, right?
I think so.
Union County and Alcorn County formed 1870.
1870.
So Alcorn County was formed from parts of Tishomingo County. So when you look at the Alcorn County records, you'll see some of the records that Old Tishomingo.
Oh, yes.
Because someone had the fortitude to copy the records from the Tishomingo County Courthouse, and when they took it over to Alcorn County Courthouse. So now you got 2 copies of those records. That didn't happen often. That was a smart person doing this work right here. We need those records. And majority of the time they're gonna be land records, but there were a lot of other records. There were some real records, and we're gonna talk about that in just a minute. So once you get through the census records, we're gonna go down to 1900. 1900 is the first census, and the only one that I know of that asks what year and month you were born. All the rest of them, as far as I can remember, ask you how old you are at a certain time period. 1900 asks you what month were you born in. They had skipped that 1900 census, you would skip over that, right? And then we go to 1890. With 1890, federal census burned in the storage site, so it was never released to the public. So there are some states that have a few counties left. Unfortunately, Mississippi doesn't have any left. So we have to find a substitute record that's closer to that date. So we're going to look at 1892 eligible children's school records. And I say eligible because it didn't mean you went to school. It's that you were of age to go to school. So Webster says eligible means you can be educated. You're of age to be educated. So the 1892 eligible children's school record is a great source since we don't have the 1890 federal census. So then we'll go down to 1880. In 1880, it's probably one of the biggest records because this was the record that was used when the federal government started putting people ages for Social Security. So they need to know who will be eligible for Social Security at this time period. So they went to the 1880 federal census. And at that time, we didn't have ancestry and all this when they started doing this. So they had the sound decks. And the only index on the sound decks, those households had children 10 and under, because that's what the federal government needed. It's great for us now, but census records were not intended for us to do with genealogy. No one even knew that word, right? So every record we use, majority of the time, I feel confident saying 99% of the time, it was not created for us genealogists. It just happened to be a great record when we started looking for what we need. So in 1880, then you go down to 1870. 1870 is the first census after the Civil War that's supposed to list everyone, black, white, Chinese, Native American, and any other race that we have in the state. It didn't do a great job, but that's what the record said. So, because prior to that, prior to the end of the Civil War, we were what? Property. And the census says, ask for a free poll. So unless you were a free person of color, you were not listed on the 1860, 50, 40, 30, or 20 census record.
Okay.
And if you're listed on there, it'll say free person of color. It's a free person of color, free mulatto, or it may say Indian. I have not seen any other categories other than that on the 1860 federal census. Even though I'm sure there were some, I have not seen them. Does not mean that they're not there. Just mean I didn't see it. Okay? Because I can't see everything. And I'm not going to tell you that I see everything, and you come back and say, look at this, I found these Chinese people on this record. She didn't say that. I'm just saying, that's what I saw.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah, so Mississippi was formed in 1817. So our first federal census is 1820. So the actual first census for the federal government was 1790. So Mississippi first census was 1820. The first list of African Americans will be 1870. Now prior to that, there are some other records you can use that may not give the actual names, like the 1850 and 1860 slave schedules. It did not actually give the names of those those actual enslaved people, unless they were 100 years old. And that's the only time they list the black person by name. Because you got to remember, this 1850 and 1860, we're talking about property. So sometimes that's probably one of the hardest things to get past when you're doing genealogy, is that instead of looking for a person, they got always been a person, you're gonna look for property. Okay? And I've seen people get upset and just walk out. But then you still want to find your ancestors, right? So it doesn't matter where you find them at. You just need to find them, put them on that tree. Because by now, we're down to 18, this time period, we have left that pine tree, we're in the oak tree now, right? So now we got all these branches we need to put these people on. So you want to look for them as property in the deed records, the will, probate records. Why you say, why a deed record? It's property. Right? So sometimes you look in the deed index, it'll say slave. Or sometimes it'll say chattel. And sometimes it says chattel, you need to look at it. So are they saying actual chattel, or are they talking about an enslaved person? So here, this is when you turn over all your stones. We have to put our emotion behind us and just keep digging deeper, right? So you're gonna, when I was looking for some of my people, I used a surname that we had. So I was looking for Coleman on my father's side. But let me jump back to the census record for a minute when I talk about census, about these last names. And I was talking about these relatives giving us information, and we're so tired of hearing about it. So I remember my great grandmother, and she used to say, well, you know that's not their real name. I'm like, no one else said anything, so I just brushed it off. But it stayed in the back of my head. I'm like 50 years old. I'm like, why I can't find my great grandfather, my great great grandfather? So I can find them in 1880. They should be here in 1870, right? So I'm sitting looking, and that little voice in the back of my head said, you know that's not their real name. So I found my father, who's John Ross, his brother, who's John Ellick, his father, who's Eulin John, his father, who's John Calhoun, his father, who's John Bias. They like that name John. John is a name in the Bible. A lot of times when people can't read, they follow what's in the Bible though.
Yes.
So you think about those names, you see a lot of Johns and James, and then there was that name Shadrach. So I'm like, I found a record in 1880, and it said Shed. So I'm like, that's a nickname. You know how you talk to yourself, that's a nickname. Because that's why I don't do nicknames, because they're too hard to trace. I tell people all the time, my name is Joyce Lawson. I have a nickname, but I don't know if you people call me that. Now I told them not to do it, but they think they're grown. They just still call me that, Nothing I can do about it, right? So I'm thinking, Shed. So I'm just puzzled here. I'm thinking about the Bible now. I'm like, because I know that most of my relatives on my father's side couldn't read, all right? Shed. I'm like, Shed. Then I like, Shadrach. So I went on Ancestry, and I did the wild part. I put S-H-E. Nothing came up. I'm like, okay, let me use another vowel. S-H-A. Wild card. Shadrach jumped up. There was Shadrach. Shadrach Billups. They were no longer Sanders or Coleman, they was Billups. They were living in Alabama. And there was Shadrach and my great grandmama and all the children down to Shadrach Jr., who was 1 year old. Because Shed Jr. was 10 in 1880. Every one of the children were there. They just had a different last name. So we changed names back and forth. And a lot of times people change names because either they want to disassociate themselves with the former plantation owner. Something happened in their lives that they had to make a major adjustment. So they changed their last name. Because there was no Social Security. Who's going to track them? So they changed their last name. A lot of people changed their last name after the Civil War because they wasn't sure about this new freedom thing. What if they change their mind in 2 years and want to come back and get us? Oh no, we're going to change our name. Some changed their name because the Union soldiers came through. And they talked to someone and they liked that name. And they changed their last name to their last name. So you don't find them by their name that you're used to. Misspell the name.
Right.
Use a wild card. Or just search them by their first name, the first three letters of their first name, and put them in the county that you know they were supposed to be in. And sometimes maybe put a wife or one of the children's names in there, have narrow it down. And you'll be surprised at what you come up with. That people actually change their name. They moved one county over. And sometimes they moved down on the coast. I found my great grandmother's family. I'm like, you all are supposed to be up in Chickasaw County. Some went to Sunflower County. How in the world did they get way down into Clark County? On their way to the coast. So my father said that he always heard that they like to fish. And they heard there was great fishing industry on the coast. There is, right? They were tired of being farmers. They wanted a new life. They went to the coast and became fishermen. Because in the Bible, they were fishermen.
Yeah.
It keeps going back, doesn't it? You know, whatever you believe, but the history is there. So that you can't find them in one spot. Use a wild card and find them. And don't say that's not my relative because they got an E in Cooley and we don't have an E in our Cooley. Or they put an E on their green, and we don't have an E on our green. Or they were kind of hot yellow, and they dark. Doesn't mean a thing. No, they lived on this side of the county. We say it over here because, we are landowners over here. We're not related. Majority of the time, yes, you are.
Yes.
I was just explaining to my son the other day, and he said, no, I'm sorry, my grandson. He's like, Grandma, why is Daddy darker than I am? I said, you better ask God that. I said, let me try to explain to you. I said, because genes talk.
Yes.
I said, you see your grandmother on your dad's side? You see how fair complexion she is. Now, her mother had the same fair complexion. Now, her husband was kind of on the dark side. Like tablecloth dark. He was that dark.
Yeah.
So half the children were light, and all the boys were dark, and one daughter was dark. You say, Grandma, how can that be? You got it. When you put apples and oranges together, you got tangerines or something put together with the pears. You end up with different fruit, but they still related, right? So that's what genealogy is.
Yeah.
It's genetics.
Yes.
So when you get to doing genealogy, you might want to do some DNA, but do your research first. There are no use you finding that I'm half Native American, I'm half this, I'm half that. You don't have the names go with it. So what is that really telling you? That you need to go back and do your genealogy. So then let's talk about marriage records. Because people come to the archives, not retired from the archives at the end of 2020. And I started that in 1988. And I told my mother, I said, I'm going to retire. And she was like, Joyce, you keep saying that. But she passed away in 2018. She didn't get a chance to see me retire. But I retired at 59 with 34 years of service. Let me take that, 32 years of service. 2.5 years of that were just leave times I hadn't used. Because I'm one of the people that you said come to work. I'm going to work.
That's right.
I don't need to stay out just because I have time built up.
Right.
What if something happened, then I have to be at home and not get paid?
Yes.
The bill's gonna keep coming, right?
That's right.
You better use your time wisely.
That's right.
So when I got retired, I had 2.5 years of leave, medical, and personal time. And it all rolled into my retirement, giving me 34 and a half years of retirement time.
Yes.
Right. So let's go back to talk about marriage records. Marriage records in the 1860s and 70s and 80s and on up to around 1920, only listed the groom, the bride, and the person who's doing the officiating. So a lot of times people are very upset when they get a marriage record because they're looking for a marriage record like today that's going to list their parents' names. It wasn't until later, until around 1925 up, that question comes on there. Because as he read the poem, they ask more and more questions.
Oh,
Okay. So now on my marriage record, it asks who my parents were.
Oh.
But in 1900, when my great grandparents were married, it did not ask that question.
Okay.
So you have to look at the time period when you're looking at the actual record. each record is not gonna have the same thing as would today. The questions today are geared more toward what the government needs to know, or how we best trace these records. That was not the case in the 1900s and the 1880s. Okay, so we got marriage records, death records. Mississippi did not keep birth or death records officially. And notice I said the word officially until November 1922. I'm sorry, 1912. I still got 22 stuck in my head out. November 1912. That's when the Vital Records Office was formed. And those records supposed to be sent to the Department of Health. And later on, they changed it to Vital Records, which is all under the same umbrella. So prior to that, you're gonna have census records, obituaries, tombstone records, family say, and sometimes, if you're lucky, you may find an obituary in a paper. And the majority of the early obituaries, if you were a person of color, then it's not like the Clarion Ledger or the Batesville paper. It's gonna list everyone who died in the obituary. Because even now, you have to pay for those obituaries you put in the paper.
Yes.
So in 20-some years ago, you didn't, because they were trying to fill up space in the newspaper. But say in 1920, you're looking for a relative and looking for an obituary, you may have found in the newspaper under colored section, Mr. Jim Robinson died on this day. Now keep in mind that this newspaper is not printed on the same day as they said this day. So you got your weekly, you got your monthly papers, and you got your bi-weekly and all that. But he was someone the people in the neighborhood knew. So you have an opportunity here to find that he may have been listed in the paper, but there may not be any biographical information about him. But now you know when he died. So it doesn't hurt to check your obituaries. Now, current obituaries. Current obituaries are, like I said, family records. There's a lot of truth in there. It is obituaries. It all depends on who wrote the obituary. And sometimes when they related or how they felt about that person.
Yes.
Or they may not like your aunt. And she's not listed on that obituary.
Right. There you go.
That's right. So take everything you have with a scoop of salt, not a grain, with a whole scoop of salt. It's just another record, right? So let's walk out to the cemetery. Now, before you go out to the cemetery, know what cemetery you're going to. Every cemetery is not open to the public. You don't want to catch a trespassing charge. Because it may be on private property.
That's true.
Yeah.
If you're driving down the road and you say, look, there's a cemetery there. Let me just get out. First of all, you don't have your snake bite boots on. You shouldn't be getting out no way. You got on your sandals. Something's gonna bite you on your toe. You going out there, you hop across the fence, someone holding the wire open, you crawl through.
Yes.
You're right.
And you write down everything you see in the cemetery.
I'm familiar with that.
Because this is what happens, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Genealogy is just a history lesson and a story all together.
Yes.
So you're going out to the cemetery and you see all these tombstones. There are some, and there are a lot of that don't have a tombstone, but you see the indention in the ground, so you know that someone is buried there. But you can only write down what you see.
Right.
So you see this tombstone said this person died in 1923. It's just as pretty and shiny with a picture in there. Suspect, hold up. This is not the tombstone they were placing for that time period.
That's right.
That's a recent tombstone.
Right.
So did they get their information from the death record? Or did they get it from someone else? They said, Well, I think, John was about 3. Cause it was sweet potato time, and we were pulling in sweet potatoes. So that was in the fall. And I think it was this day. And so you put that on tombstone. You haven't verified a thing. You put up a pretty stone with wrong information. And the year may be right. The month may not be right. And the day is definitely probably gonna be wrong.
Yes.
I've seen it too many times. And I've gone walking through cemeteries, coming from a funeral. I'm the last one out. I want to see who's buried over here, and who the people over there. They tell me, George, you come on, that's how I am. I'm trying to think who these people are right here. And when my mom was living, she was like, George saying, what I keep about bothering the people. Well, Mom, I'm not disturbing them. I don't think. I'm just writing there looking at the information.
Yes.
Then I get home, I got all these questions. You know why she don't want me to do that? Because when I got home, I had all these questions I wanted to ask her.
Yes.
She like, Joyce saying it's getting anybody time you go home? No, ma'am, I'm gonna ask you. We're gonna spend the night.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you some more questions. She's like, Lord have mercy. But see, that's what happens. The more information you find, the more you want to know, right?
That's right.
So you like, now who is this Brownlee person married to? Kind of found out. You related to them. They were married to your first cousin. Now I'm back at the archives going through records. I can't even have lunch. I'm in the microwave room, strolling through the marriage records, through the death records, calling my mom on the side. Who you says it was? Knowing y'all wasn't supposed to be on that phone in that search room anyway. I'd heat over the corner. Knowing I'm breaking all the rules, but I just had to answer that question because the genealogy me wanted to know.
Yes.
So that's the genealogy you want to know. So I'm telling you, there's no record you shouldn't look at. If it's a marriage record, if a birth record, it's a death record, if a tombstone record, just know the glitches in between what you're looking at and verify what you know, what you see. Even a census record sometimes will have wrong information. Because my mother was a census taker in Jackson in 1970. And she would say, sometimes people talk to you and sometimes people won't. Because you ask them their personal information.
Yeah.
Which one know that for?
And sometimes you were out in a wooded area, as we say, when we lived in the country. And when it rained, you didn't go for a ride. But the census taker had to ask that question. So they may have got to this house and they're like, now, who lived down the road? Well, that's John Robinson and his wife Sally. Her name was Sarah. And they got these 3 children, Junebug, Ludi, and John Boy.
Yeah.
On the census record, they listed Junebug, Ludi, and John Boy. Because that was secondhand information. Now my husband, I was looking for some records for him, and I told him, I said, Roy, you know that on the 1950 census, your aunties and listed by their nickname? He said, no, they're on. I said, yes, sir, yeah. I said, here, I make a copy. Because my husband wanted, you have to show him. He's not going to believe what I'm saying. You got to show it to him. I said, see, it says Darryl, Tank, Buddy. I said, and none of them have their real name. He looked at it, and so I showed it to the aunts when we went to had the family day. And why do you put our name down like that? So Dad said, what's my name? Dad instead of Lorena. But apparently the person down the street knew you were Dad. They put Dad down there. And they said Tank,
That's what we call you.
Yeah. They didn't know his name was Ernest. They called him Tank. So that's on the actual record. Because the census taker did not go to the actual house.
Yes.
They, for some reason, I don't know what the reason was. So maybe the weather was bad. And they just stopped so who else lived down the road? So that one person gave all 3 houses down the road. And they said, okay, good. Then they went on to the next person. They went on to the next. They went on over to Route 2. They left Route 1 and went to Route 2. But that's the way records are done. So if you see records, you're like, that's not the way it's supposed to be. You ask the question, who gave the information? Who gave the record on, who gave the information on the death certificate? Was the family there? I know my mother said my cousin was killed in Indiana. My aunt had to call her and ask her, what's the daddy's name? Mom, do you know his name was William? She said, well, I wasn't sure. I want to put it on him. So they called back to Mississippi to make sure they had the right names on there. Because they were asking her the question. She was the in-law. She didn't know. As a matter of fact, we hadn't been too long, realized we had this uncle. And he didn't know. Mama just told she had an older brother. So she put an ad in the paper in St. Louis. And someone contacted him in South Bend. They said, ain't this you? They're looking for you. So they came to Calhoun County. Mom said, one night, somebody knocked it off. Mom said, who was that? My dad like, well, I'm not going to say my dad said, because, you know, he was very colorful in his language. We won't say that word. So anyway, they opened the door. It was my uncle, Durrell. Mom said, she one look at him, she said, you Durrell, ain't you? He looked just like my granddad. He said, yeah, I heard you were looking for me. That's when he met the family. Then half the children left Mississippi and went to South Bend to live in South Bend out of Mississippi. So where did the family go? There's a reason why people leave. It was a home for a better life in South Bend. And they were leaving the sharecropping place or working in the factory up in Baltimore. They went to South Bend. I don't know if their life was better, but they left in the hopes of a better life. That's why we see people migrating. We talk about the Great Migration and all these other things, because they were leaving, and everybody didn't go to Chicago. We say, you know, Chicago's Little Mississippi. But there are we have a lot of ancestors there, true enough, but they didn't all go to Chicago. A lot of them went to Baltimore, they went to California, they went to New York, they went to Ohio, some went to Texas. So we just can't group them all up and say they all went to Chicago. Because life was great there. It wasn't. A lot of them left Mississippi in the hopes of a greater life in Chicago, ended up living in the slums.
Right.
They did not have these big, beautiful houses dressed to the name. They had a different struggle for Mississippi, but it still was a struggle. So every part of this movement carries a different story. And as a genealogist, you need to know the whole story of why they left. When they died, what they brought back to the state. For one they brought back to the state. Maybe they couldn't afford it. And sometimes, like my father told me point blank, now he is from, we have a family cemetery in, is it Montpelier? It's called Lower Prairie Creek in Clay County. My dad told me from the time I can remember, do not take me back there to bury me. I do not want cows run across my grave. So when he died in 2009, I politely informed them that he would be buried here in Jackson on 49. Out there in that Garden Memorial Cemetery. Someone wasn't happy. I said, well, this is what we're gonna do. Y'all can talk about it later. We're gonna bury him on 49. Because he has told me the last 30 years he did not want to be buried in the family cemetery. So he's not. So when you go to your cemetery and you're like, okay, well, where's this person, where's that person? Ask yourself first, did the family have enough money for a tombstone? So they may be there, they just don't have a tombstone.
Right.
Or they may be buried somewhere else. They may have remarried and the husband or wife want to be buried, they family cemetery.
Somewhere else, yes.
Or they live somewhere else and they said, don't take me back there. Or they just didn't have the money to take you back. Whatever the question, there's always an answer to it. And your job as a genealogist is find out what the answers were, what the answer is for your cases. Every case is gonna be different. You just have to have the audacity to ask the questions. Because as long as we live in, we're gonna have some questions.
Yes.
So keep looking for them. You can't find them in the census records. Look for them in the other children's school records. You can't find them in the marriage record. Look at the newspaper. Look in the WPA records. So they were born around in the 1930s. So maybe there's some records from them in the WPA, the Works Progress Administration. That was the get back to work plan after the Great Depression. So there were people hired to go to each county and each town and write down the names of all the cemeteries, the churches. They took pictures of the schools, what kind of crops they were growing. Were there any enslaved persons? Interview those people. Did you look at the Freedmen's Bureau records, which is another federal record? And it was designed more or less to keep the former enslaved people from being re-enslaved by the planters. So they had to sign a contract. Those are federal records, and some of them online, and some of them are located in Archive and History at Jackson. But I would first look online. Look at the Library of Congress. Because if it's at the Library of Congress, then you can search it, and these records are free search. Don't just give away money now. You know, unless you just feel like you want to give away money. You can do that. But I like to keep my money, I like to dress shop. So my husband said, there's always a pack come to my house. He says Joyce Dixon, Joyce Lawson, Joyce Dixon Lawson. Some just say Joyce. I said, does I say that? I mean, I don't think so. So, yeah. Keep searching, because you're going to use your money for what you want to use it for, right? You can write to the Department of Archives and History. So you have a question today. My ancestor died in 1934. And I need a copy of his death certificate. You can write to the archives, and they'll do a 1-hour free search for you. So whatever your question is, you can go to the website, send in an email request, or you can write them a letter and ask them a question. Don't ask them to do your genealogy for you, because that's not going to work. Because they're there to enhance your research, not do the research for you. Okay? So ask the question. When you find this death record for me, say, you think they died in 1934. They're going to look at 1934, and then they're going to look until the hour's up. So be sure you put, I think it was 1934. It may have been before or after. Because you're going to get a whole hour worth of research time. Get your hour worth of research. Doesn't cost anything. Now if they find copies, they'll write you back. Dear Miss Robinson, we located a death record for John Robinson, who died in 1935 in Union County. And it may be a surrounding county. Because we don't know, we're not quite sure where they live there, right? Because we don't actually know when they died. We just think we know when they died. They're going to send you back a request, and they'll say, if you send us $2.50 or $2.25, we'll send you a copy of it. Or you could write your vital records. To whom it may concern, vital records. I'm looking for this record, 1934. They're going to look, 1934, 2 years prior and 2 years after. They're going to find the record, but you got to pay up front.
Yes.
I think it's $15. So you can pay $15 for a search and get the record, or you can pay nothing up front. They can do the search. They can send the record back to you and say, you owe me $2.50. Wouldn't you rather pay $2.50?
Yes,
Because you don't necessarily need a certified copy of it, right?
no,
You just want a copy, you can get the information. Because you don't really know what's on that record anyway. You just know his name is there, and it may not be your person. Just this John Robinson, he was a black male, and he died in this year. And this is the county he died in. Many times I looked at records and thought, just so happy with myself, I did this Monday. I just knew I had to find the death record of this person I've been looking for. I couldn't wait to get to the archives, and I thought it was him. I thought he died in 1938 because he wasn't on the 1940 census. He was there in 1930 and 1920. In 1940, the wife was head of household. So when I saw his name on 1938 death record, I was just so proud, you know. I marched up to the archives, you know. I put the little card under my car, make me a copy. I read it, like, it was a female. Because on the actual certificate, male was scratched out and the word female was written on it. And it wasn't the person I was looking for. This person was only 7 years old. But on the index, it said it was a male who died in 1938 in Hines County. So in actual record, it was a female who died in 1938 in Hines County. And she was African American. So you don't know when you're looking at the index whether or not that's the right person to actually see the record themselves. Now, the Board of Archives quote you that record, they're gonna actually look at the record. They're not gonna make a copy of it and say, here it is, you get this a 7-year-old person. They actually have to look at the actual record themselves. And then they write you back. This is what we found. Do you want to get a copy of it? Okay? So that's a free search. So let me give you the address in case you might want to write to them. Got your pencil handy? Let me give you the P.O. Box number first. And you can abbreviate the name, MDAH. That stands for Mississippi Department of Archives and History. P.O. Box 571, Jackson, Mississippi 39205. You can tell by reading this address plenty of times, right?
What's the zip code again?
39205.
And the box number?
571.
Okay.
39205.
205.
Right. Or you can just go to the Mississippi Department of Archives and History website and look under research, and it says that the department says submit a request, and then you can just email them, and you're not gonna get an email response back. You're gonna get a written response back. Anytime a request comes in, it's logged in with a unique number assigned to a researcher. So if you haven't heard anything in 2 weeks, you should contact them at 601-576-6876. You can email them and ask them, say, hey, it's been 2 weeks, I have not heard from you. Can someone check on my query? You should get a response back. I don't know if anyone who has not gotten a response back, okay? Or you can just take a day trip up to the archives.
Could you repeat that phone number again, please?
601-576-6876.
Okay. Thank you.
Now you can also go to their website. When you go to their website, you go to the catalog. You see what records the archives actually has. You can go to the website and say, go down to get the catalog and click on Union County. And when you click on Union County, the sheet will come up to you what records the archive has for Union County in the county records section. What marriage records, deed records, probate, and any records deemed as a county record, it's going to be listed on there. But you can't actually look at it. You can't search it because most of the records are on microfilm. So you can write to them and say, look, I see you have the deed from this date. I think my father on land during this time period, can you see if there's a deed record for him? Or whoever you're looking for. And again, it's the same process. They're gonna write you back and say, we searched from this day to this day, we did not find him. Or we found him, this is how much we'll call him copies of. And sometimes maybe 2 or 3 pages long. So, I think the copies of, it's been 5 years out, so it was 25 cents then, so maybe a little more now. But not as much as if you go into the court out, get a copy of it. Okay? But they will respond back. That's for all 82 counties. So whichever county you want to look at, and just go to that county and click on it, it's going to tell you what records the archives holds for that county in the county record section. That does not include birth and death and all those. The department has no birth records. All birth records are in the custody of the State Board of Health. They're working on getting more copies of birth records, of some birth records, and other copies of death records from vital records. But each agency has a time period when they release these records. Okay? So last time I talked to vital records, they said birth records are kept private for 100 years. Death records are kept private for 50 years. So the last death record the department has in 1943, they should have some more coming in, right? But I know we were asking for them the entire year that I was working, and we were unable to get them because there's always some loophole that's why they couldn't be released. You know, because sometimes they had a Social Security numbers on and other HIPAA violations. But now I think they're working on getting more release right now. And I can't say too much more about it because it's just a work in progress. Right? Right. So anyone have any questions? What burning questions do you all have? Yes, ma'am.
Sorry I was late, but I just have one I was curious about. You know, it's a book called the Book of Negroes, and that's supposed to be the ones that come over on the ship and everything, because I've done some Ancestry.com search and stuff for my in-laws. And I was just curious, we got to that point and then we couldn't find anything on that. So is that really actually accurate that it is a book with those listings of names that's supposed to come over on the boat?
Well, that's a twofold question. And the best answer is that I have never seen it. There were several ships, many ships coming over. And some came from Africa through the transatlantic slave trade, from South America through the islands, and people getting off on all these places. Then finally, then some made to the colonies that we call United States right now. Okay. So each ship has their own manifest. I have not seen a compilation that you're describing, but I do know that there are some ship manifest records. And there's a section of records called inbound and outbound ship manifest records from the port of New Orleans, where they may have gotten off there. And those records are on land. They were compiled by scholarly researchers. And last I searched, those records are on land. And you can check those. And I have found quite a few planners bringing enslaved persons to Mississippi. Now that source your site, I have not seen it. So that's the best answer I can give you. Okay. Right. Now if you have so if you're coming in from where the slave ships are coming through, if you're on the South Carolina side, there's a lot of records of importing enslaved people, and they're coming down to the Mississippi Territory. And a lot of them stayed in South Carolina, and South Carolina has an excellent index of wills and probate records. And some of these people made it to Mississippi. I did do some research for a person, and he said his ancestors came from South Carolina, but they end up in Mid County. So they came from way South Carolina, and they all the way almost down to the Gulf. But there's a set of records. There's a book called, it's a 4-volume set. It's compiled by Albert Casey, C-A-S-E-Y. And he indexed all those records that he could find in Adams, Franklin, Amite, Jefferson County. And those are, and some in Claiborne County. Those are the oldest of the counties in that section. None of those counties have had courthouse fires. So it's a great chance that you could find great records in that source.
Tell me those counties again if you don't mind.
Adams, which is the first county, Franklin, Jefferson, Claiborne, Wilkerson. Now, you can, I don't know what libraries still have copies of those books. You can contact your courthouse, your library, see if they have the Albert Case of 4-volume set of records. It says at the history of Mid County from 1699 up to, I think it's 18, I'm not sure, it's somewhere in the 1800s. But not only did they index marriage records, he did marriage records, will records, Bible records, and I have found some of my relatives in the white Bible records in Calhoun County. Since I'm from Calhoun County, and our church is Midway Missionary Baptist Church. So it's over there. Over here is Midway Missionary Baptist Church. Midway Baptist Church. So that's the white church. In between there's a huge cemetery. In the records from the white Midway Baptist Church are some enslaved people's names who went to church with their former owner. And some of them are buried in that cemetery. So if you can't find, a lot of times you can't find them in your church cemetery, you need to see if the owners had a cemetery of their own, or your church is an off branch from another church with by the same name, or in close proximity. So a lot of times you're gonna find them in the back of the cemetery, even though they say it's a white cemetery. When you actually look at the index, you will find that there are all African Americans in that cemetery.
Yes.
So you just have to. I take nothing at face value. I want to see for my own self. Why I can't look at this record? I'm always asked that question, why? You can't see this, why? You can't go over there, why not?
Yes.
I tell people I'm that person who can make a 5-layer cake from scratch. From scratch. I can make a 2-layer cake from a box. It's going to divide itself in 4 pieces. Apparently, I don't know how to follow directions. I just put enough frosting and push it back together. It'd be so moist. Because they got all that frosting all between the cracks. I done push it back together. But the one I made from scratch, it's just in there just as proud. And you don't know the other one from the box until you cut down in like, that frosting all in that cake like that. My mom used to say, just get your glass of butter and enjoy the cake. Don't ask the question. So, and I said that, yes ma'am.
I have a question. You mentioned, I think you sort of touched on this, that make the records of slave owners, because I've heard other genealogists say that may be a way by which we could trace records as well. If we have the manifesto for slave owners, and then that may be a way we can trace our ancestors as well. Has that been reliable?
You can, but very few owners really had the ship manifest records. But But what they do have a lot of times, and that's when I always search, and I say to work the will and probate records, is because you look for property. When you die, you want your property to go to who you want to go to, right?
Right.
So you put it in your will record, in your inventory record, I want Joyce to go to my son John. And then you find out John lives in Louisiana. So we can't find Joyce, Mississippi, because the planner died. He willed Joyce to John. John is in plantation over in Louisiana. Because a lot of plantation owners had more than one plantation.
Right.
So, or you could, one of the best records I've seen, well, a lot of them are good, but some, you know how some things stand out in your mind better. Isaac Wade was a slave owner in Jefferson County. And he died in either 1830s or 1840s. On the census of 1830, he listed, and he is the only white person on the census for that record. So that when they did the inventory of his records, they listed all his slaves. Because in his record, he said he wanted his slaves to go back to Liberia. He put them on his side. He said, upon my death, I want all my property, slave property, to be sent back to Liberia. Now, that's a lot of money, right?
Right.
Not just the trip itself, but enslaved people cost a lot of money. So his son, through a history, he like, Daddy not gonna give away all this property. He goes to me, I'm his eldest son. So he challenged the record. I'm so glad he did. Because now the court jumps in. The court wants to list every enslaved person by name.
Right.
Male, female, and a value. So I can tell by the value that just a 25-year-old male is going to be worth more in money than a 50-year-old male, right?
Yes.
So the value, or the same thing with females, because females of childbearing ages has more money than someone in my age who's past that prime. Thank you, Lord. Did that. I thank you for the one I gave me. Appreciate that. But so the monetary value is different. So he had the inventory of all these enslaved persons. Wrote down the name, the age, and their value. There were over 100 of them. That list is at the Department of Archives and History. And I think the most of it is online, if you look up Isaac Wade. So after years and years of battle, and some enslaved people sold off, but they should not have been, because it was in probate. But we know how things happen. Quite a few of them did end up being sent back to Liberia. So it's another reason why you can't find them, because they were sent back to Africa. And not many times that you're going to find the type of record. And the best deed record I found was in Monroe County. Because, and why it's so important, because it was a court case followed. I love court cases, y'all, because you have to tell everything. So in this court case, this man, he bought an enslaved woman. Her name was Medlong, Medlong. The court record, so this man, she was bought by this man named Turnbull. So when he bought her from her former owner, the former owner said he found out that she was not being used as a slave, but she was used as a wife, a concubine or whatever you want to call her. But she was not used as a slave. They had lots of children. In that deed record, they described each one of the children. How tall they were, how old they were, their skin complexion, and everything. So the other man he wants to, he says, wait a minute, you bought her under false pretense. I want her back and all her increases. So now that's a court battle. So now everything has to be detailed in this court case. So we found out about Medline and all her children and how old they were and their names and everything about them, how tall they were.
Yes.
This is all from a deed record. So just because it says it's a deed record, don't skip over that record.
Right.
You can, Department of Archives has a lot of court cases. And some of the court cases go back to the territorial time period. A lot of them talk about enslaved persons being sold or being bought over. So I look at everything. You know, it may not be my family, but I know about people's family so much. That's just like I got a history book right in my forehead here. You know what? I didn't even make my own movie, Ancestors That Are Not Mine. I'm claiming them all because their whole family history is walking around. Walking around in my forehead, just talking to each other. But that's the fun part about doing genealogy. It's a geographic search. It's a human search. It's any kind of search you want to do. And some people say history is not fun. They don't know what they're talking about. That's why I majored in history, because I want to know.
Yes.
You know. Yes, ma'am.
I got to attend one of your classes at the Mississippi Department of Archives and History, and it was so informative, and I was able to come back and actually increase my search here in New Albany. But when I attended your class, you mentioned that you have relatives here in Union County. I am sure that the many people that are here in the room today may know your family. So if you would like to just touch on that.
Oh, okay. The ones that I know about now, and I think they're Buchanans.
Buchanan.
Yeah, Buchanan. Yeah. See, I said the wrong word. I said when I said
it.
yeah. Because I said when I said I sound like I said with a K and it's a CH.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's when people say that's not my relative because you spelled it wrong.
Yeah, spell it.
But it is a CH, right? So the only ones I know that are here now are the Buchanans, and they moved from Houston to New Albany, and I think last year the oldest one moved from New Albany to Shannon. So they moved out since then. But you know, each time we have something to do, they say, you know, we're going to New Albany. And this only like my second or third time here. And I forgot how long my drive was from Jackson. You know, because I used to cut off on exit 206. Right there in Grenada. I'm gonna take 8, I'm gonna take tomorrow. That's what, okay. And today we had to bypass 206. And said, that's our exit right there. I said, yeah, if we were going to visit the family, we'd be on that exit right there. Or that other exit, my husband and I own some property up in Tillatonia. Now why we have this land up there, I don't know, because my husband said something. Because he wanted to go hunting and fishing up there. We've only had this land about 6 years. Tell me how many times we've been fishing or hunting up there. Nary. Not zero, but nary a time. But, you know, it's makes him happy, you know. Just to go up there and have that land with all that cuttings and everything out there. There's a big pond. We're supposed to go fishing. We bought some poles.
All right.
They see it at the house. We're gonna go fishing one day. But right now, we have nary fish. You know, so it's the plan. We're gonna do it when we retire. He retired in 2019. I retired in 2020. We work more now than we did when we were working. This retirement thing will kill you. We didn't learn the word no. He has 3 part-time jobs. And I said, he said something about another job, this morning. I said, so when are you available? You work 5 days a week, and then you work on Saturday. When are you available to work? He just looked at me, I like, that's what I thought. Yeah.
So I have one more question
Yeah.
for you. Do you do personal research? So say like a person is wanting to find out more about their family and they've done all their research and they need some extra help. Can people hire you to do some research for them?
I don't hire myself out to do a whole lineage, but I will tackle questions, because we run into a brick wall. And that's what I will do. Because the majority of the times I'm doing genealogy workshops around the state, and I'm also working on documentaries, doing research for lawyers. I don't know if you all seen the documentary on Meg Evers. You have? I was a historical producer for that one. And so I'm working on another right now, comparing Mount Bayou and Vicksburg. I'm retired, y'all.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
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 So when I talk about my husband, it's like the pop talking about the kettle, isn't it? Yeah. So you send me an email. Let me look into it. Because sometimes it may be just something simple that you hadn't thought about. Because sometimes we have to think outside the box.
Can we have it?
My email address? You sure can. It's Lawson, LHWSON, .Joyce, JOYCE, 49 @yahoo.com.
We get an hour.
That's what
Five
just
minutes.
You may get an hour, you know, if I start finding something good in there, you know, because I'm nosy. I mean, I'm inquisitive.
Repeat that again, Lawson.
Lawson dot Joyce,
Joyce.
49
Yeah.
@yahoo.com. Yes. So sometimes it all depends on whether I can find anything or not. Genealogy is like anything else. Sometimes you'll find a domino effect. And sometimes our ancestors are dug so deep you can't dig them up with 2 or 3 shells. And those are the ones that you have to really look for. Because then the question becomes, why can't I find you? And that's the question we have to ask ourselves. So where did you go? What did family Lord say? So why can't I find you? There's got to be a reason. When I worked at the archives, and when I moved over to the Civil Rights Museum, which is all under one umbrella. So Mississippi has the only state-funded Civil Rights Museum. That's unique for Mississippi. We're the only state-funded Civil Rights Museum. All the Civil Rights Museum workers are state employees. And we opened that museum in 2017. So when I was on the team to gather information for the Civil Rights Museum. I was first working on the History Museum. The History Museum, we started that prior to 2005. Katrina came and kind of blew those plans away. So the money that was allocated for the History Museum was reallocated for the Old Catholic Museum because Katrina tore the top off of it. And doing that, water got into the museum, all the way down to the basement. And so the brick inside the museum was turned to powder. You could pick up a brick and do this, and it would just dust away. So that money was reallocated to the Old Catholic Museum. We got money reallocated under former Governor Hader Barber. Now, he sent out a search team to say, because we've been talking about this for years and years, that we need a Civil Rights Museum. So he formed the team, and they walked around the state, and they they settled on a location on property belonging to Tougaloo College. But there was some problem with that because that was private property, and when it comes to private property, there's more money involved. First of all, you have to lease the land or purchase the land. Is the land for sale? Who's going to pay for it? Museums are not, I'm sure y'all know here, museums are not cheap. So he decided that we'll just build it on state property. So that was state property on North Street, right down adjacent from the William F. Wonder Building, or the Mississippi Public Archives History Headquarters. So they already had plans for the History Museum, architectural plans for that. So then we had to have another architect come in and design the Civil Rights Museum. So now you got two museums under one roof, which is really what kind of house is that? I know y'all know. You got it.
Divided.
Huh?
Divided.
It's divided. Think about it. When we lived in the country, someone said that you had this house, you had a house here,
Yes.
had a walkway here, and a house here,
Yes.
on one roof.
Yes.
What kind of house is that? The dog trot, wasn't it?
It was what?
It was a dog trot. So when I say museum,
DOG.
D-O-G, trot, it's a dog trot, T-R-O-T.
Wow.
Which means it's two, yes. You got two houses under one roof. The museum, there's two museums under one roof. That's the biggest, prettiest dog trot I've seen. Yeah, don't tell them I said that, okay? And it's not much they can do, I'm retired, right? But historically, it is a dog trot. Cause I lived in one in many of them, and that's what it is. It just closed in, like many dog trot houses at this day. They close them in, so now you have a hallway and a back door, right?
Yes.
You don't have the open way they had when I was a little girl. So I remember one time telling my dad, I said, "Daddy, there's a deer on the porch." He ran and got a shotgun. We had meat for days.
Meat for days.
Dad said he won't walk on that porch no more. But that wasn't where he is. But I cleaned it up some for him. Yeah. So that you have I was on that team, and we went around the state talking about the Civil Rights Museum and what the people wanted from it. And one thing I would tell people was that I would not be part of a museum that's going to whitewash history. I don't do it in genealogy, and I don't do it in history. So that's one thing I could tell them. If I put a story in here, or we put a story in here, it's going to be the truth as far as we know. Ugly, pretty, whatever. History is history. Genealogy is genealogy. It is what it is. So I moved over there, we opened up in 2017. I moved to the Civil Rights Museum, and we made it into one museum. We called it two Mississippi museums. Because people are going to one museum and not the other one. So we know what the Civil Rights Museum, but you need to go to the History Museum to find out why we need the Civil Rights Museum. So I say it so often, I was there like in my sleep, go to the History Museum. Or I didn't go to the Civil Rights Museum. Because people weren't doing, they were just so mesmerized by the Civil Rights Museum. And talking about history, one of the first things we found, and it's sad, but it's history. I was in the Gallery 3, that's where the big light is, and I heard a scream or cry out. And so I had to go check out, see what's going on. And this lady she was like in her 70s, and she had her sister and some other people with her. She was in Gallery 2. She was under the lynching monitors. And she found her relative on that lynching monitor that they thought had left and went north.
Oh my God.
They never heard from him again. So they thought he was protecting them, but not letting them know where he was, protecting himself. But in essence, the truth be told, that he was lynched and killed, and we found evidence of it, and his name was on that lynching monitor. Keeping in mind that lynching does not necessarily mean someone who was hanged It doesn't mean someone who was killed unjustly,
Right.
who was not ever prosecuted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they never had a trial. So, in that museum is more history on both sides.
Right.
Right. So you have to think about all those things that are history that you have to go back and look at.
Yes.
So you go to the archives, travel next door to the two Mississippi museums, History Museum and the Civil Rights Museum. You're gonna need more than one day. You need more than one day just to do research.
That's right.
Now the archives is open on Monday from 9 to 5. Tuesday through Friday, 8 to 5. And 8 to 1 on Saturday. Unless there's a legal state holiday and they'll be closed. The Civil Rights Museum, the two Mississippi museums are closed on Monday. They're open Tuesday through Sunday. Sunday is a free day. You don't have to pay to go on Sunday. If you go through the week, there are special provisions for senior citizens, people who are service members. Those people get a discount. So I think this year, in September, I'm officially 65, so of course they don't charge me anyway, but I can get my discount. I'm looking for all discounts I can get. So when you come, so like I said, write me a letter or send me an email. If I can't find what you're looking for, I'm gonna refer you to someone else. Okay? I'm not just gonna say, I don't know. I'm gonna say, I don't know, but try this person right here.
Yes.
Right? So call the archives and ask to speak to this person. Because each person working the archive may specialize in something different in the search room.
Yes.
Now when I was there, someone came in and said, I'm trying to find my relative where he served in the Confederate service. He was a soldier. Well, I know there's a book index there that's gonna tell me, in alphabetical order, the name of those men who served in Mississippi. There's also one book for those who served on the Union side. There's also Confederate pension records for black and whites who served in the Civil War on the Confederate side. And those who served on the Union side from Mississippi Unions. Now they asked me, Regiment 12 disappeared and I can't find what happened to them. Then I'm gonna go back in the back and get one of the other researchers that know more about this record than I do. I'm going back, Jeff, can you come at me? There's a patron out front. He's looking for this regiment. I don't know anything about that. I'm just gonna tell you, I don't know. I'm not gonna say, he beat around the bush to say, I don't know. But let me get someone who might know.
Right.
And I bring them out, and he will take over from that point. So I didn't tell you I look for those pension records that did it. Look for the pension records. Because sometimes the enslaved people went into service with their masters.
Yes.
And a lot of those people did receive a pension record. Those records are in alphabetical order. I love alphabetical order, don't you? Those records are in alphabetical order. The Union records, the index, is in alphabetical order. So check out those records. There's another record that hit my brain. What was it? Oh, Native American records. Now this is not basic genealogy. I done jumped off on another whole tree. However, the question comes up, so let me just go ahead and address it. My family was Choctaw. We were Indians. Probably not full blood. There's a possibility that you may have some Native American blood in you. The best record to check that I found is the Dawes Rolls. D-A-W-E-S, Rolls, R-O-L-L-S. I say that one more time for you. D-A-W-E-S and Rolls, R-O-L-L-S. This is a list of people of the 5 civilized tribes who signed up to go to Oklahoma. In these 5 civilized tribes, you're gonna find a whole list that says freedmen, because Native Americans also held slaves. So if they lived on the plantation, majority of the time, they were not Indian princesses or prince. They were enslaved people from that tribe. So when the Dawes Rolls officially starts in 1887, they list all these people who signed up to go to Oklahoma to get this land. Now, you can be Native American, or you can be a free person under one of these tribes, and decide you didn't want to go to Oklahoma. Your name is not going on the list. Does not mean you were not Native American. Does not mean you were not from a freeman from this tribe. It simply means you did not sign up to go to Oklahoma. These records are searchable on the internet. So you can search these records yourself. I see some of y'all will be at midnight tonight, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
You can be all over Ancestry, the Dawes
Yes.
Rolls, and everything else. That's what that's what I hope you were going to say.
Mm-hmm.
So another record that's what I was thinking about, the record that I didn't tell you to search. Hospital records and prison records.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times, when you can't find someone, they may have been put in a mental institution.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And they may have died there. And because someone's in a mental institution does not negate their relationship to you.
Mm-hmm.
It only tells you where they were, so you can put them on that oak tree. You got another whole branch to look at. The index is at the Department of Archives and History. Some actual records are there, but they are closed records because of HIPAA violations. So you can look at the index, or you can ask them to search. And I have no problem searching mental records. I don't care if it's called the lunatic asylum. I don't care if it's called the state hospital at Whitfield. Generally, people call this Whitfield,
Mm-hmm.
but Whitfield is a town.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the place.
Uh-huh.
Or are they in the penitentiary?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people say, oh, they're Parchment. Parchment is the town. The state penitentiary is named of the institution.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Look at those records.
Yes.
So, because who in here lives in a glass house? I know I don't. I think my glass house has cracks in it already.
Yes.
You know, I can't get anyone to help but me. Right? So you look at all these records, and when you find them, and if they did what they did, so they didn't, so. I know my father went to prison for forgery. This was in 1970s. My father couldn't even write his name, and he wrote like a first grader until past 2000. So how could he forge his name, my name, and it was cursive, and he couldn't even write. So a lot of times you find these people there, and there was a reason sometimes, because someone didn't like you,
Mm-hmm.
or someone wants your property.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
If you're deemed insane, then somebody can challenge you and take your property.
Yes.
Or if you're incarcerated, they may think they can strip you of your rights. So there's no record you shouldn't look at. If they're buried, dig them up. If they're in the penitentiary, get that record. If they're in the state asylum, get that record. If they had TB, tuberculosis, search the records for the TB, tuberculosis hospital in Mississippi. There's the Maddie Hurst, one in Meridian.
Yes.
It lists the names, when they went in, and how they came out. Did they come out alive, or did they pass away there? It's going to give you that date. So when I say you go to the index, just be ready to stay there for a while. Take your pencil and paper, and just write down every record you need to search. And then go back and look at it again. Or say, hey, I looked at these records. You can email me and say, I looked at these records, I cannot find who I'm looking for. Tell me just a little bit about them. Please don't be narrative. Cause you wrote me a narrative, I'm gonna have to figure out what the narrative was about. Then I need to know what your question was. But you wrote me a narrative, I don't know what your question is. So you, same thing when you write your archives. Ask a question, a blunt question. I need to know this person. Don't send a 2-page narrative. You only got 1 hour. They spent 45 minutes reading your letter. You got 15 minutes worth of research time. So all you're doing is hurting yourself, right? They don't need the narrative. They just need this. John Robinson was born on this date. We think with a question mark. He lived in this town. I'm not sure what county it was. I think it was this county. Another question mark. He was married to this woman. They had these children. I think he remarried. But I'm not sure who the second wife is. You gave him a whole research quest right there. But don't say John Robinson, he was a great farmer, he was a great dad, you know, and I think the family came to this place over here. Not one question in there. So then they gonna have to pick out something to answer you. Then you gonna write back, I already knew that. But you didn't ask a question. So they had to figure it out for themselves. Now you wasted your time.
Yes.
Now you could turn around and write you another letter.
Yeah.
Another letter with questions on it. There's no limit how many letters you can write now. But if you're gonna send a bunch of letters, at least wait to get a reply back before you start writing another letter. Because they've done that whole hour of research. They may have answered that question. And you've already sent another request. And I've had that so many times. And all I can say is, see previous letter. I answered this in your previous reply. Because I had no hour. I found the question you asked me in the first 15 minutes. Now some researcher will stop right there. Now I don't find out more information on what and he was married to this person, he used a copy of the marriage record, they had land over here. You want to copy all this information. And you can say yes or no. Check out the ones, put a check mark by the ones you want. And then when I get it, I say, oh, she didn't want this. And I have been known to have already copied stuff. So, oh no, you gonna get this information, I done dug all this stuff, I made copies. I ain't gonna charge you for it, but you gonna get this information. Here you go. You know, because I'm not gonna fill up my trash can with all the copies. And have my director ask me, Joyce, why you throw away all that paper? I'm sending it to you. You can throw it away. I'm not gonna do all that. I put my blood, sweat, and tears in all this work.
Right.
Here you go. Here's your whole 9 of information. Read this, then write us back with your next question. Be sure that on your question, on your query, tell us what race the person you're looking for. Because they're not gonna automatically know. When I first started working in archives in 1988, and I think in about 1990, I was doing reference. Before then, I was a serious librarian. So I was in charge of getting every book and every publication printed in the state of Mississippi. Was it a newspaper, the news flyer, the family letter, whatever, it was published in Mississippi, archives was collecting it, and that was my duty. So when I started answering questions and the phone was at the front desk, and all you all out there, y'all can keep me on the phone. So I'm saying, can I help? Then I said, okay ma'am, write down his name, and I need to know what race he was. Now, so my supervisor pulled me to the back. Like, why did you ask that question? He's like, how am I supposed to know? How am I supposed to know that he's black or white if I don't have it if you don't tell me? I can't tell a path through the letter and see. So I made a habit. Every time I asked someone something, I said, put down what race that person was, or what that race you think they were. Because they were Native American, sometimes they would be listed as mulatto. Because sometimes it's easier being a mulatto than it was being a Native American. Or sometimes, and vice versa. And sometimes the census taker decided what race you were. If you were mulatto, then he may you were a Native American, and you were bright skinned, as they say, then Jimmy put you down as being a mulatto instead of Native American. So put down, I think we were Choctaw, but sometimes they listed us as mulattoes. So when they see those two records, they know they're still on the right track. Okay?
That's a term that you're using now, the mulatto. Was that the term that was only used for Native Americans, or were there other groups that it was used, other national people that it was used for?
Mulatto is a mixture of black and white.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what I was thinking it meant.
Yes.
So that was wondering if sometimes that may have been for a person that had a mixed race of white and black.
Yes.
And also that was listed, they may have been listed as mulatto also.
Right,
Okay.
the census taker, a lot of times census takers would come to the house
Uh-huh.
and they wrote down what they saw.
Right, okay.
So you may have been a Native American,
Uh-huh. Or you
but
may
I
have
saw
been-
you as being a mulatto and I wrote down mulatto.
Okay, so they may have been a black and a white, or a mixture of black and white person too, right?
Yes, they
Okay.
made that, and that's a mulatto.
Okay.
Question.
Yes.
That does not necessarily, that is the only, what about, people from down in the Louisiana,
Mhm.
area and whatnot?
A lot of times
They
they said,
considered,
last time they were listed as mulatto, or sometimes they were listed as quadros,
okay,
which means another term, but it means they were.
that is something else besides
Yes,
black
yes,
and white.
ma'am. They were Native American, and a lot of people are listed as quadros because they were listed as a mixed race.
Mhm.
Not mulatto, but a mixed race,
Right.
especially if they've been from Louisiana.
Right,
Yes, ma'am. It's just another term for mixed.
okay.
Mhm.
It's good to know those terms, because sometimes that may show up in our records also.
Mhm.
And it may be in the fact that the mother may have been black and the father may have been white.
Or
And so-
French.
French, okay.
Right,
Mhm.
exactly. Because my stepmother, even though she was classified as being white, her father was still classified as being white, but he was very dark skinned
Right.
because he was from Wales
Uh-huh.
and they moved to New York. And then her mother was from Ireland and they moved, through the Taylor family, they moved to New York. And they settled down in Massachusetts. And so she was very fair skinned. Her father, who worked in the mines, was very dark skinned. But he was still listed as being white. So you just can't go by what you see.
Right.
Right.
Right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Everyone ready to do their research?
Yes.
You gonna gather those records at the house first? You're gonna ask those hard questions?
Yes.
And if you don't, and when they don't answer, what are you gonna do?
Ask somebody.
You gonna ask someone else.
Yeah.
Don't let one question or one situation stop your genealogical growth.
Yeah.
Keep asking the question. It's not, I've had so many people say, you're minding my business, you're starting stuff.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, but
You still-
why are they over here? Why are they listed like this?
Yeah.
I acknowledge that I'm asking her question. And if you can't answer me, I'm gonna ask someone else.
And then some of us have fear about, well, you asking too much now.
Yes.
You know,
Yes, ma'am.
and you might get hurt, fear of getting hurt, period.
You know, I often tell people that genealogy is personal. And if you're afraid of what you're gonna find, don't do it.
That's
Don't
right.
do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you is that whatever you find does not change who you are.
Who you are.
That's right.
It does not make me love you any less or any more.
That's right.
I still have more information about you to love.
Mm-hmm.
I may not like what I find.
Mm-hmm.
It's history.
Yes.
So what?
It is what it
You can't change history. We've had people at the archives who one case where a gentleman was very upset that when he found out that his great grandmother was mulatto, he threw a hissy fit.
It didn't change.
He came through, he threw his notebook down on the desk. I was getting ready to check him out. I said, did you find what you're looking for? I need you all to change that record. I said, well, Richard, we can't change the records. That record is a lie. So I'm still trying to figure out what he's talking about. It shows that my great grandmother was a mulatto, that I don't have no black blood in me. I said, okay. What more could I say? Okay. But the records can't be changed.
Yeah.
You want me to change the 1880 federal census record? Who not? But listen, sometimes a census person will be doing records, and they'll write down all the names, and then they'll later go back and do ditto. One of the dittos should not have been a ditto. So that person may not have been mulatto. That person could have been white. But they didn't fill it in properly when they were doing the actual record. So they looked at the person up top, and they dittoed the rest of them. Because there were no notations that this person was a different race. So true enough, his grandmother could have been white. She could have been mulatto.
But you still couldn't change it.
You got to go back in time to the person who did the indexing and talk to them. Because records are never changed.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to be anyway.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true.
Y'all always have to clarify that, don't you? They're not supposed to be changed.
Not supposed to.
So I can't, but I know that federal census record was not going to be changed. But he was so upset. He left Mississippi
Really?
and died in Tennessee.
Oh.
And the records were still.
So years later, we learned that he had died in Tennessee. He said he was never coming back, and he didn't.
Wow.
He was just irate.
Still didn't change it.
He was red as a beet and twice as mad. But there was nothing I could do about that.
Yes.
After you look at the next census record, I'm not looking at anything else. I said, well, let me just check your paper, make sure you don't have any archives records in this, okay? All right, did you check out right there? All right, have a good day. That's all I can do. And he just flung open the door, walked out of the lobby. I could hear him in the lobby slamming at the doors. And I'm looking out because where the desk, I can see you going to your car. He's marching down that hill like a soldier going to battle. That's my song. But we can't change records. History is what it is. History is genealogy. Take what you get and work with it.
Yeah.
Because we all who we are. Our parents and their parents, none of them were saints, and nor are we. So any type of record you can think of, look for it.
Yes.
If you can't find them, there's a reason why you can't find them. You can't find them in the census records. Look at the other children records. That can give you another group of records. Look in the penitentiary records. Look in the mental hospital records. They there somewhere.
Yes.
Or did they die and no one recorded it? Because before 1912, people didn't record birth and death records officially. If you died, then the family member cleaned you up, dressed you up, put you on a cooling board. The family came by to view you, and you were taken out to the cemetery and buried. Case closed. There were no official records anywhere. Maybe someone wrote it down. Then there was a house fire. Most of the houses were made out of wood. When wood is very dry, lightning strikes, what happens? You got a house fire. And that happened to a lot of courthouses as well. These courthouses burned through lightning strikes and everything else. They weren't all suspiciously burned down like the one in Campbell County. You know. So just always keep asking the person why. Ask your family member. And see if they have some questions. Because sometimes you talk to people about what you're doing, they will have another route you look at. They say, well, did you look over here?
That's true.
Share your research. And when you get through doing your research, tell your relatives what to do with your research.
Right.
Don't leave it there on the desk, and then God calls you home, and then they have all these boxes of genealogy work, you don't work your entire life for, and they throw it all outside in the trash.
Right.
Tell them what to do with it. Call the archives and say, my grandmother was a great genealogist. She left all these records. I would like to donate them to the Department of Archives and History.
Yes.
Because there is a family file.
Uh-huh.
Now, it's one of the hardest searches you can do because it's by surname. So all these Robinsons, and if I get 3 boxes of papers for Robinson, it said John Robinson, then I'm gonna put Robinson John. Photo number 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm trying to catalog his son. But then there's some other Robinsons. So you won't know until you go into these folders to find the information that you need. Don't let your relatives throw your information away.
Right.
You work too hard for this.
Yes.
If you can, have it printed and bound.
Mm.
Send a copy to your local library. Send a copy to the Department of Archives and History. Send a copy to your historical society.
Mm-hmm.
And send a copy to the Library of Congress.
Mm-hmm.
Because genealogy books go out of print very rapidly. And then you have all these books at home. You pass away, they gave them to some of the family members, some kept them, some threw them away. All your hard work. So you need to have some places where you know that 20 years from now, I go to the archive and I can see the history of the Lawson family or the Coleman family or the Gunn family or my family in that biographical section at the archives or in the genealogical files at the Archive of History. But I always contact the Historical Society. Historical societies are great at keeping records, and sometimes they have limited space, but they can point you in the right direction of someone who can keep your record. So do that. Make those plans before, because we never know who we're going to leave, right? So here today, gone the next 2 minutes. But have a plan on what to do with your records. Don't let all your work go in vain. Show your records to your family members. Don't give your records to the family members. Show it to them. Let them use their phone. I can't take pictures of it. Because when you lend, or let me just borrow this, you're never going to get it all back. That's what I say about obituaries. I have a box of obituaries about like this big. It is stuffed so tight. I don't lend out my obituaries. My husband's a hoarder. That's why he loves me, because he's a hoarder. Let them take a picture of it. Or you take a picture of it, email it to them. Or send it in a message to their phone. You keep your original, and then you later on you have your record to print your book from. Okay? Once you print your book and you've gone through and everything is correct, then you can decide what to do with your paper copies. You might just want to destroy them yourself, because you already got them in book form. But don't leave it to chance for someone to say, girl, mama worked on this stuff all this time. I told her to get rid of them papers. And now nobody wants to go through them. Next thing you know, they're in the trash can.
Yes.
All that hard work and effort of many nights going through these records, trying your best to get to the next location. Your blood, sweat, and tears are in those records. Make sure you preserve them so the next generation can see them. Because if you don't, they're not gonna have nowhere to start. So this is your record. They can verify it and move on. Like I tell you, when somebody give you something, verify it and then move on. Don't just take someone's word for it. You need to verify it for yourself. I know my brother's working on family history. My sister Ann was asking about it earlier. And I said, I have one of these notebooks, but I have to verify all that information. Because I saw no records to back up what he was saying. Because he wrote it in a book. Now I have to go and verify it before I can take another step. Because I already seen some things were right and some things were kind of questionable. And a couple things were downright wrong. And I just put a circle with a pencil. And that means I need to go back and check. And I wrote on there, check this. So that's what you have to do. don't take anybody's word for it. Verify, cite your sources. When you find it, say, I found this in the 1880 census. I found this on the marriage record from book B, page this in this county. So the next person can step back and say, I want a copy of that. They know to go to book B, this page in the county, and get a copy of themselves. Okay? I think that's actually, unless y'all have any more questions, that would end my presentation for today. I also want to tell you that if you have other questions, some of my workshops online on YouTube. So if you Google Joyce Dixon Lawson, and you'll find some of my workshops are popping up. And I had to do this, we went to Florida on a trip several years ago, and they listed me as Joyce Lawson. But my driver and I said Joyce Dixon. It would not let me have my hotel room. So here I am in Florida, and the two names, the two rooms are listed under Joyce Dixon, Joyce Lawson. All my ID, because my work ID is at home in Jackson. That's I have me in it. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna prove I'm Joyce Lawson. I'm sitting at the couch, on the couch in the lobby, and my mind says, Google yourself. I Googled myself. Down with the workshops, and when I opened one of it, it says, good morning. My name is Joyce Dixon Lawson. I took it to the desk, and the register said, that's all I need. I just need to put a dash between that.
Yeah.
He said, that's good enough right there. You know what? That was God. I don't know what else to say. He whispered in my ear, Google yourself.
Yeah.
And there were several different workshops I've done. One on cast iron skins and everything else. And each time it says, good morning, my name is Joyce Dixon Lawson. Since then I have changed everything over. So my name really is Joyce Dixon Lawson. So I got new driving license and everything. You know, one says Joyce Dixon, the other says Joyce Dixon Lawson. So my work ID says Joyce Dixon Lawson. So in case whatever they come up with, unless they call for Joyce Coleman, I'm about to find a new route. That's our baby name.
That's all we need.
Yes. So it says it's all right there in black and white. Oh, I should say in living color. Joyce Dixon Lawson. So be sure you have everything. You have all your records straight. Don't do like me. I wait till after I retired. I've been married for 20 years. Well, 23 years now. And until I retired, I never changed my name to Lawson. It was just Joyce Dixon because for work and paperwork, it was just easy to leave it like that. And my husband said, as long as you say, when I said Joyce Lawson, you know who you are. You answer, then I don't care what the paperwork says. As long as you know your name is Joyce Lawson, then that's okay. But when I retired, I'm like, you know what? That's all well and good, sounds good. But you know, you keep your paperwork to say the actual name, so if something happens, your family will have to go to court and prove that who you are. So I had to officially change my name to Joyce Dixon Lawson. And Dixon had been my middle name, because my maiden name is Coleman. My middle name is Ann. You know, my mother said, after I asked her one day, you know, my mother's very blunt, you know. Because I asked her one day, I said, Mama, why do you keep calling me Joyce Ann? Everybody calls me Joyce. And she was playing solitaire. She's because I named you Joyce Ann. She never did look up. So I thought, oh, okay. She said, I didn't name you Joyce, I named you Joyce Ann.
Yeah.
So that's Carol Ann right there. Don't touch your head. Yeah. And Mama said, Carol Ann and Joyce Ann. See, you just can't tell your parents anything, can you? They so stubborn. Will they need to call you by the name they named you and stuff. So thank you all so much. And I hope y'all enjoyed this night because y'all had a good time.